Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jenna O'Day, and today I'm going to be talking to you about becoming a BCBA, which stands for Board Certified Behavior Analyst, or a Board Certified Assistant Behavior Analyst, also known as a BCABA. So here's some information that's helpful if you want to pursue those two credentials. So as I've mentioned, I'm going to be walking you through this and you've come to the right place. So here at Purdue Global, we have a ABAI verified course sequence program that contains all of the coursework required to help you reach your goal of becoming a BCBA or BCABA. And so this brief presentation is going to introduce you to all parts of the process. So we're going to first talk about the educational requirements, and the option bolded in yellow is what PG currently offers students. So in order to be a BCABA, option 1 is that you need to get a bachelor's degree from an ABAI or an APBA accredited program. And if you're unsure if your program is accredited, if you are outside of PG, you can click on that link in the PowerPoint. Also research this as well. Information is found in the BCB handbook for BCBAs and BCABAs. However, more than likely, you are a PG student, and so you meet the requirements for option 2. Option 2 is an undergraduate degree in behavior analytic coursework, and that's what we offer here. Now, if you're pursuing a BCBA pathway, there's a couple of different options. There's 4 total. The first one is a master's degree from an ABAI or an APBA accredited program. Currently, there isn't any APBA accredited programs, but that's something that will be coming out in a couple of years. So be on the lookout for that. And again, the same process. You can click on that blue link there, or you can also search it via the link in the BCB handbook. Now, similar to option 2 for the BCABA, for the BCBA pathway, you do meet the requirements for option 2. So you have a graduate degree and you complete behavior analytic coursework. And there are some other options, option 3 and option 4. Option 3 is that you have a graduate degree, you do faculty teaching and research, and then option 4 is that you have a doctoral degree and you do postdoctoral work in ABA. However, here at PG, we again meet the requirements for option 2, where you earn your degree with us and you complete that behavior analytic coursework. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of those educational requirements. So if you do have a bachelor's degree outside of Canada, Australia, or the UK, you do need to have a degree equivalency evaluation. And it's important to note that coursework must be completed no later than 10 years ago. Additionally, you need to receive an academic credit, so you do need to pass your classes. Usually that's a C or higher. And then lastly, for that BCABA coursework requirement, you do need to meet 225 content hours across different sections. So these include things like ethics and code enforcement, professionalism, philosophical underpinnings, behavior assessment, behavior change procedures, personnel supervision, and management. So again, those are those requirements for that BCABA program. Again, looking at that bachelor's degree, the big thing to keep in mind is, again, it can't be, your coursework can't be completed later than 10 years ago. So if you're going for credentialing in 2025, right, you need to make sure that you have your coursework completed 2015 or later than that. Now, when it comes to the BCBA coursework requirements, you do need to have a master's degree, and the same thing applies. So if you have a master's degree outside of Canada, Australia, or the UK, you need to have a degree equivalency evaluation. But again, if you're completing it here with PG, whether it's your bachelor's or your master's degree, you do not need to worry about this requirement. However, something that you do need to keep in mind, just like with the BCABA coursework requirement, is that coursework for the BCBA program must be completed no later than 10 years ago. Again, you need to receive academic credit, so you need to pass your grades, and typically that's a C or higher. And then instead of the 225 content hours, this time you need to have 315 content hours across those different sections as well. Again, if you ever want to know more information about the educational requirements, you can see the BCB handbook for either BCBAs or BCABAs. That's going to be the best resource to give you the most up-to-date information. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is fieldwork supervision. So we're going to be talking about finding a supervisor and the qualifications of a supervisor. So we're going to talk about option one, which is our partnership map. So Purdue Global has a variety of partnerships across the nation, and we are very proud of that. So be sure to check out our site to see opportunities in an area near you. And once I talk about the information on this slide, I'll be sure to show you the partnership map. There's the link located there, but again, once I talk about all these options, I'll show you what that link looks like as well. Now, the next option that we have is option two, and that's on the BCaBA website. So on the BCaBA website, you can search for providers who are willing to give you supervision. You're going to search through the registry and filter by location. Again, in this presentation, that link is provided. If you go to the BCaBA website, it is located there. And we will also go and explore to see what that looks like. And then the third option is in the workplace. So many of you may be employed as an RBT or you work in the field of ABA. So be sure to speak with your supervisor about an opportunity for supervision. Many employers do offer that. Now, speaking of supervision, though, it's really important that you do have a supervisor who meets the qualifications. So whether you're going for a BCABA or a BCBA, it's important to note that your supervisor needs to complete an 8-hour training course, and you can ask for proof of this. You can also look them up on that BCaBA registry. Additionally, they need to be in good standing, and you cannot have a multiple relationship with them. They need to be a BCBA for at least 1 year and meet the CEU requirement. Now, we know that there are a lot of new behavior analysts in the field, which is absolutely wonderful. And so the BCaBA does recognize this and they say, well, okay, if you haven't been a BCBA at least 1 year, BCBAs less than a year who have monthly consultations from a supervisor, and that supervisor has been a BCBA for 5+ years, you can meet that requirement then to be a supervisor. So if you're a BCBA less than 1 year, as long as you have that supervisor who consults with you and they've been a supervisor at least 5 years, you can provide supervision. Additionally, there is one more option, but this option is going away January 1st, 2026. And this option is that a licensed psychologist in behavioral and cognitive psychology who tested an ABA can be your supervisor as well. So again, you want to try to figure out how to find a supervisor, either by going through a partnership map, that BCaBA website, or your workforce, and then make sure that once you do find a supervisor who can give you field work, that they do meet those qualifications. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is our partnership map, and I'm also going to show you the BCaBA certificate registry. All right, so this is our partnership page. It's on our ABA resource website. In order to get to our partnerships page, you're going to go all the way to that far left-hand side. You're going to click on more, and then you're going to click on partnerships, and that's going to bring up this page right here. So as I mentioned, we are really proud of the partnerships that we have nationwide. This is what that partnership map looks like, and there's a couple of different ways that you can figure out who the partners are in your area. The first way is that you can type right at the bottom there where it says name or location. You can manually type in your address or your zip code or wherever you want to receive supervision. You can type it in there. Or if you want to do something a little bit more fun, you can zoom in on the map. So we're going to go ahead and zoom. We'll go over here. And let's say that you live in New Mexico and you want to be receiving supervision. So in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it looks like there's a couple of different partners in the area. So it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more over there that we can kind of see when we zoom in. So a lot of different partners there. So when we zoom back out on that partnership map, again, you can really see the scope of how many partners we have, which is absolutely wonderful. So that's a little bit about our partnership map and where you can access that. The next thing that we have is the BCaBA certificate registry. So in order to access this, you can again click on that link that I showed you. Also, what you can do as well, you can go to the home page here. Once you're on that home page, you can go ahead and click Find a Certificate located on that far left side. And once there, it's going to pull up that web page that I initially had up. So here it is. This is how you can search. You're going to search by a BCBA or a BCBAD. You also want to make sure that you're selecting that they are active. It will automatically select the status for you. And then you also want to make sure that you have certificates who have completed that supervision training. And if you're a BCABA, you want to make sure they can supervise you. Or if you're willing to pursue a BCBA certification, you want to be sure to click that one right there. You'll fill it out again, looking at the country, the state. Everything is relatively straightforward. Your postal code, city. You can leave the first and last name blank because you don't know who it is yet, right? You're just looking to see who the people are who are willing to supervise. You click those buttons and then you'll be good to go. So again, in order to find that BACB certificate registry, you go to that homepage, bacb.com. Go ahead and click on Find a Certificate, and then you begin to fill out that information, that little questionnaire. So now we're going to go back to the PowerPoint and talk a little bit more about the requirements needed to be a BCBA or BCABA. So continuing with our supervision requirements, a BCABA does need to have fieldwork hours. So once you've solidified a supervisor, you want to start accumulating those hours. So if you're doing supervised fieldwork, you need to accumulate approximately 1,300 hours. 5% of your hours need to be supervised each month, and each month you have to have a minimum of 4 contacts with the client, and making sure, you need to have 4 contacts with your supervisor and at least 1 client contact. So at least 4 times meeting with your supervisor and 1 client contact. If you're doing concentrated field work, you need to have 10% of your hours supervised each month and a minimum of 6 contacts with your supervisor. If you are pursuing the BCBA credentialing, then you need to have 2,000 hours of supervised field work. 5% again needs to be supervised each month. And again, making sure that you have a minimum of 4 contacts with your supervisor and 1 client contact. If you're doing that concentrated field work, ensure that you have at least 1,500 hours. 10% of those hours need to be supervised each month and a minimum of 6 contacts with the supervisor. Again, for more information, you want to be sure to check out that BACB handbook, but these are some of those main things that I want you to keep in mind. Additionally, there are some similar requirements when it comes to that BCABA credentialing and that BCBA credentialing. So there's something known as restricted versus unrestricted hours. So 40% of your total hours must be unrestricted. So these include things like data collections or reports. Additionally, 60% of the hours must be restricted. So that is time with clients. Now, when it comes to hours earned per month, there needs to be a minimum of 20 hours earned per month, and it caps at 130 hours. Additionally, no more than 50% can be group activities. When it comes to your documentation, you need to have at least 2 different types. One is a monthly form, which I'm going to show you what it looks like, and the other one is a unique reporting form. You can use an Excel spreadsheet, you can use an online tracker, you can use a notebook and paper, but it just has to be a unique reporting system that you and your supervisor come to the agreement to use, in addition to using the BACB's monthly forms. So these monthly forms, there's a couple of different ones, and I'll show you briefly what they look like. And if you only have 1 supervisor, you want to ensure that you're using the individual supervisor form. If you have multiple supervisors, make sure that you use the monthly supervisor form. Additionally, once you have accumulated all of those hours, you're going to be using the final verification form. There's one for an individual supervisor, and there's one for a multiple supervisor form. Something really cool that the BACB does do is that they do provide a help video for individuals who might have questions with this. So I do recommend that you watch that help video in addition to reading that BACB handbook. But now what I'll do is show you what those monthly forms look like. All right, so this is the individual monthly fieldwork form. You'll fill this out each week. Not each week, my apologies. Each month you'll fill this out. It used to be every 2 weeks way back in the day, but now it's only once a month. So you're going to fill out this form. It's relatively straightforward. So making sure you put your name on the top, your BCB ID number, the month and the year, what type of field work, where it occurred, the country, your supervisor's name, their BACB number. You're going to be filling out the hours per month, and then you and your supervisor sign it and date it. So this is what the individual supervisor form looks like. And this is what that monthly one looks like. Again, very similar. Just be sure to double check the top that it does say multiple, or if you have an individual, that it does say individual, just because again, these two forms look very similar. Now, when it comes to that final verification form, here it is right here. Again, relatively straightforward, very similar to those other forms that you've been working on, except this time it's going to say final. You're going to fill out all of that information there, fill out your fieldwork type. Your supervisor will sign it and date it. This is not something that you will sign. And there it is for that multiple supervisors as well. So overall, this is what those forms look like. I do recommend again that you watch that BACB video. It's found in the BACB handbook for more information, in addition to just reading that over, because it's going to be, like I said, the best and most up-to-date information the BACB offers. Now that we've seen what those forms look like, I'm going to talk about one more documentation system, and that's a supervision contract. So this is the same requirement whether you're pursuing a BCABA or a BCBA credentialing. So it's super exciting to accumulate your hours, but before you start to get them, you need to ensure that you and your supervisor enter a supervision contract. You might be asking, well, why? Well, this is because it helps to protect the supervisee and the supervisor. And hours can begin to accumulate after you start your first ABA course, which is very exciting. So when it comes to the sample contract that's located here on the screen, that's actually provided directly from the BACB. It's found in that BACB's handbook for BCBAs and BCABAs. Now, some required parts that need to be in that supervision contract include having the supervisor and the supervisee's name and date, also to ensure that there is the responsibilities of the supervisor and supervisee outlined. There also needs to be a written statement that all parties will abide by the Code of Ethics, and there's that link there to the Code of Ethics for Behavior Analysts. There needs to be that written statement that the supervisee and supervisor will maintain records for at least 7 years and will provide documentation if requested by the BACB, how a termination of services would go, and reasons a supervisor will or will not sign monthly verification forms. So that's some of those required parts, and there on the screen is that little sample supervision contract, and I recommend that you do look through the requirements again in that BACB handbook for more details. Now the testing process. So I've been saying this time and time again, but truly the best resource will be that BACB handbook. So do refer to the examination section of the handbook for comprehensive information about certification, examination, including preparation for the exam, policies and rules, and what to expect after passing the exam. So I'll show you what that looks like on the BACB's website. So here we are on the BACB's website. If you are pursuing a BCABA or BCBA credentialing, please go to whichever one meets your needs. And then what you're going to do, let's say that you want to be a BCBA, you're going to click on that. And then you're going to see on that far right-hand side, there's that information about examination. If you're interested in the handbook, again, it's located right there, in addition to right here as well. It has just some overall information about requirements and things of that nature. But you're going to want to click on that examination information. And this is where you can find the most up-to-date information about testing. So here it shows the length, how many questions, the delivery, and things of that nature. Now, when it comes to preparing to test, there's a couple of recommendations. Make sure to use the 5th edition task list if you are testing relatively soon. And make sure to use the TC06 if testing in 2025. Put a couple of links right there on the PowerPoint slide, but you can also access these on that BACB website. Also, be sure to review the ethics code for behavior analysts. And then the most important and helpful thing that you can do is you want to ensure that you're gathering and reviewing the materials and resources found in your coursework, because that's going to meet the needs and give you a better understanding of the content found on that 5th edition task list and or that TC06 content outline. Here's some information, again, like we just saw on the BACB's website regarding exam information. You can see here the exam length. It is a relatively long exam, so make sure that you are doing some practice tests and things like that to help prepare you with your stamina for taking that exam. There's approximately 185 questions for that BCBA exam and 160 for that BCABA exam. Again, you're going to be taking this exam in person via Pearson Testing Center, and you want to make sure that you go to that testing web page in order to register. Note that both the BCBA and the BCABA exam are multiple choice, and there are 4 possible choices, but there is only one correct answer. However, something really cool is that you do receive your results immediately after testing via a paper printout. So you don't have to wait in anticipation for several weeks or a couple of months. You'll find out that day, which I think is absolutely wonderful. Now, like I said, the best resource will be the BACB website for up-to-date information on the process. And for specific information related to testing, be sure to check out, again, like I mentioned, that examination information page on the BACB website. You're going to find information related to the exam structure, content, historical results, scoring, accommodations, fees and procedures, FAQs, and more. So be sure to check that out. Overall, those are the references, and I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If it's still the early part of the day, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And if you are watching this at night, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care, and I wish you the best of luck on your journey.